Chapter 11. A Nighttime Conspiracy. "Annabelle is a bastard," Caitlin said in a whisper. "I know, a real bitch," Hale said. No. I mean she is illegitimate." Hale sat on one of the beds set against opposite walls. The sheets were stiff and coarse, and the blankets gave off a musty odor as he settled down on them. He thought over what Caitlin had said and what they had seen in the receiving hall. "I've never thought about it, but Lord Chastain did die years ago, before we were born." "Precisely. Annabelle is probably the offspring of her mother and one of her lovers. It's why she is not treated as a full member of the family, but she is not quite the status of a servant either. Then why send her to the academy at all?" "It's a game of investment in status, Hale. Who doesn't want their children, even illegitimate ones, educated so as to make a better spouse to marry off to another house? You should appreciate this. You are a noble." "I am also a freak and a cripple. I never imagined I would be married off." They both were silent for a few moments. Then Hale continued. "So Annabelle is treated like the help in her own home, which makes her all the more insufferable when she is at the academy." Caitlin sat down across from Hale, running her hands through her hair and playing with the ends. "She must be incensed to see us here. Now we know her secret." A knock at the door silenced them both. Hale could see his own relief mirrored in Caitlin's face when two girl servants entered without Annabelle. One carried a tub, the other a kettle of hot water and lard soap. Hale decided the chivalrous thing to do was to let Caitlin bathe first. The servant stood outside in the hallway with him, neither of them looking at him or saying a word. After what felt like a long and awkward wait, Caitlin and he traded places. By the time they both had bathed and changed clothes, they were supplied with black and burgundy tunics and trousers as fitting for the house of Chastain. More servants brought them candles and dinner from the scullery. If their accommodations were plain and basic, at least the food was not. A whole chicken had been killed and cooked on their behalf. It was soaked in a buttery garlic sauce, served with roasted potatoes and rosemary. Despite the circumstances, it was the best meal Hale had eaten since leaving the Antis castle. By the way she licked her fingers, he guessed the same was true for Caitlin. "I doubt our friends are eating as rich a feast," Hale said, picking up a drumstick and looking at it. Caitlin was rolling a hot potato in her fingers. She put her free hand to her forehead and sighed. "I had not thought about that. You are probably right." She put the potato back down on the plate. "We should ask that the rest be served to them." Hale stared at the half-finished chicken, the potatoes with the skin crisp and golden, and swallowed the saliva gathering in his mouth. "You are right." The serving girls who came to collect their leftovers said they would share them with the other guests. Hale's eyes followed the drumstick on the platter as it left the room. There was not much to do after eating besides sleeping. They both crawled into their respective beds. Hale felt slumber coming quickly, despite the hardness of the mattress and the odor of the blankets. It was a bed, after all, and more comfortable than the cold ground. Just as his mind was beginning to loosen itself from consciousness, Caitlin spoke up. "Hale, there is something I didn't tell you." He could hear her shift under the covers to face him. He contemplated feigning sleep, but thought better of it. Caitlin would be able to tell if he was faking anyway. "What is that?" he asked. "It may be my imagination, but when we were riding up to the manor today, I thought I saw the elk." Hale was thankful for the darkness, for she could not see him roll his eyes. "Probably just a deer." "Maybe, but what if he is following us? I'm sure he is not. It's probably leagues away by now." "I guess you are right," she said, fluffed her pillow, then rolled over to sleep. Hale was awoken by a sharp tap on the shoulder. It felt as if he had only been asleep for a few minutes. The room was still as dark as the inside of a barrel. "What is it, Caitlin?" "I'm not Caitlin." Hale sat up. He knew the voice even if he could not see the speaker's face. "Annabelle?" "Yes, now keep your voice down." He heard her turn. She was wearing boots that clonked on the floor beneath them. "Ow," Caitlin said. "Hale?" "It wasn't me. It was Annabelle here." Caitlin was not as lost for words as he. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want you to shut your mouth and keep your voice down," Annabelle said. That was the Annabelle Hale was used to, but she surprised him with her next words. I'm getting you out of here. Hale did not tarry. He sat up in bed and felt in the darkness for his clothes. Caitlin was more suspicious. Why would you help us? Because it helps me, Annabel hissed in the darkness. You escape. Your companions, she said the word with a level of derision usually reserved for drunks and criminals, kidnap me and my mother will learn to appreciate me more. They're not kidnappers, Hale said, confused. No, she wants us to fake her kidnapping and frame them, Caitlin said. It will get her attention, which is what you want, isn't it? Favor, I like to call it. Hale didn't care about word choice. He had put his clothes on and was growing impatient. Well, let's go. You are willing to frame our friends? Caitlin said. We'll worry about that later. Let's just get out of here. No, Caitlin said. What happens to our friends when we get caught? You won't be. I'll escape, Annabel said. Heroically, I suppose, Caitlin said. What if we are caught before then? Then you will find out if the word of a prince is worth something, Annabel said. Can we stop talking about escape and escape already? Hale said, moving to the door. Annabel snorted and swept past him into the corridor. Hale and Caitlin followed. They took a different path than the one they had come by. Annabel led them down an unfamiliar set of stairs that, after switching back and forth between a number of flights, opened outside through a heavy door that Annabel unlocked with a ring of keys. In the starlight, Hale could see that she was dressed for travel with riding boots, breeches, and a traveling cloak. She even had a satchel slung over her shoulder. She led them to a row of squat side buildings set away from the main manor. These were workshops, smithies, glassblowers, bottlers, and other craft houses found on the premises of any large manor. When they came to a set of buildings with bars on the window, Hale knew they had come to the jail. Annabel opened the groaning door with another key from the ring and hissed into the darkness. Get up! Either they had not been sleeping, or the noise from the door had awakened them, but Val and Cody were quick to clamber up to the middle of the cell, a rattle of chains and the shuffle of straw accompanying them. We're escaping, Caitlin whispered into the cell. This is a change of fortune, Val said, but Annabel was cursing under her breath. They chained you, she said. That is what they do to prisoners, Cody said. I don't have a key to these, Annabel said, lifting the rusty chains in her hands. Have you a hammer or an axe? Val asked. I do. They all turned to the doorway. The stars were eclipsed by the massive shape of a man with broad shoulders that came close to touching either jam. In his right hand hung a battle axe, the blade gleaming in the dim light. His bushy beard and shaggy hair were unmistakable. Garn. Hale was sure they were lost. The giant of a man stepped inside the cell and closed the door behind him. His left hand was holding an oil lamp which he turned up. A gold light illuminated all of their faces, and Hale could see they wore expressions as varied as their backgrounds. Annabel had prepared the defiant face of the privileged, ready to cower the man if he interfered with her plan. Caitlin's eyes were wide with fear. Cody blinked in the light and looked askance at Val, who in his turn looked mildly amused at the unexpected turn in the already unexpected events. Perhaps he was not scared because he read the same pleading look in Garn's face that Hale did. It was not the look of an executioner, but rather a supplicant. Garn's eyes were trained on Hale. He cast his face down to the straw strewn about the floor of the cell and set the axe down while he went to one knee. My prince, I do not know the proper words. I am but a simple man of the earth, a farmer. I ask your pardon for my role in detaining you, and I beg you for a favor. Please know that my heart is humble, my request desperate, and if you fulfill it, my life is yours. Hale felt the gaze of the others fall on him. As an unpopular, stigmatized prince, he was unused to such deference. He was completely unprepared, caught unawares as he was in a cell in the middle of a jailbreak. Could the night become any stranger? It could. My daughter is ill with a sickness no healer can cure, Garn continued. I beg of you to put your healing hands upon her. Healing hands? The shaking sickness, Val said, rearranging his chains. It is believed in some parts that those with the shaking sickness can see the future and cure ailments. More than that, the prince is Stormborn. There are legends that talk of a Stormborn healer, Garn said. Hale was sure these were banned legends, banned beliefs. These are superstitions, Annabel said, but was silenced by a poke from Cody. I know these lands, sire. I can help you flee, Garn said. What will you do when the Chancellor realizes you betrayed her? I do not care. I will lay down my life, if only to help my daughter. Hale knew he wanted to save himself, to escape the manor, and continue to the font to be healed himself, and he would say anything to do so. I'll do my best, he said. Hale, you can't promise, Caitlin protested, but Cody covered her mouth with his hand, his chains jangling on his wrists. Annabelle looked relieved, her plan still intact, if altered. Val's expression was one Hale could not read. As soon as Hale had agreed, Garn stood and picked up his axe. You'll have to strike true and once, Val said, lifting his wrists. A number of blows will alert the whole manor. You needn't worry, Garn said. Pull the chains over that brick. Val and Cody obeyed, drawing the slack over a loose brick in the floor. Caitlin moved the lantern closer to shine light on the target. Garn did not even take a practice stroke. With the certainty of a smithy, he brought the axe down on the chains and popped the brick apart. It's an improvement, Val said, shaking the broken links loose even though the manacles remained on his wrists. I'll second that, Cody said. They dimmed the lantern once more and made for the stables, where they found that the sleepy-eyed stable boys had prepared horses for all of them but Garn. How did they know? Hale asked. I told them to, Annabelle said. They follow my orders without question. Now we just need one, she looked at Garn, large horse. The stable boys rushed to saddle another horse. Val and Cody took the opportunity to search for ways to arm themselves. Cody settled for a hammer he found hanging on the wall of the tack room. Val broke the blade off a scythe and spun the handle like his old staff. It will have to do, he said. As the stable boys brought Garn's horse, Annabelle called the boy closest to her over. Give me your hand. He did, and in a flash she drew a dirk from beneath her cloak and cut a gash across his forearm. The boy cried out and curled into himself, cradling his injured arm. Hush, you will live, Annabelle said. If anyone asks, tell them she did it while you tried to rescue me, she said, pointing at Caitlin. They will treat you like a hero. Caitlin was not afraid to show her own displeasure. Annabelle made a noise with her tongue, then turned to the stable boy she had just wounded. Now open the gate,